Welcome to the Catbird Quilts. I'm Kathy Martin. In today's video, I wanted to share with you some projects that I'm working on. Well, or maybe not working on, including an MCM pillow, my pink disappearing 4-patch blocks, and the fabric from the QuiltCon Wyndham Fabric Challenge. And I have a lot to say about it, so stay with me. Some of you had asked to see the back of my Quilt in a Weekend linen quilt. We didn't show a shot of the back. So before we get started on the things I'm working on, this is like I'm not working on it anymore. I'm sleeping under it. So this is my linen quilt. This is the back. So obviously I can't hold up the entire thing. It would take up the whole entire frame. The bulk of it is this lighter yellow linen. And then I pieced this part, this kind of darker butter color. And you can see probably just how frumpy and soft and snuggly it is. It is every bit as soft as it looks. And the back is honestly just as wonderful feeling as the front. So it actually, to me, looks like a quilt that is 100 years old, that's been washed and dried and used a million times. And I have to tell you, I love that because that's what we all want, I think, is that like quilts that are broken in. And I think because I use the bamboo batting and linen, it's like it's already broken in. So if you wanted that shot, there it is. And I'm not working on it anymore. So let's move on to my whips. So let's start with my pink disappearing 4-patch blocks. I finally have them all made. This project was the quilt with me that I did, which is a euphemism for quilt along. I just don't like the word quilt along. I don't know. I think it's because I don't come along. But anyway, with the patrons over on Patreon, and so collectively we did blue and white. I chose to do pink and white to use up all my pink stuff and because I was in my pink phase. It's been 5 months now and I finally have done all my blocks. And I got to tell you, I put them up on the makeshift design wall that we have in our dining room right now. In my mind's eye, I thought it was going to be this like soothing, low volume, all these lovely pinks and blushes. And instead, apparently, I have an eye for really bright pink. This was what I expected it to be. And it's more like this, honestly. So you can see there's quite the disparity there between this sweet gingham cotton candy pink and like, wow, K facet. but I have a variety of these pinks in this set of blocks, and I did low volumes with them. And so you can see how, yeah, wow. You know, like when I went to put it up on the wall, it was arranging the layout was not easy, but it ended up the way I did it, and I will eventually, I'll have that put together and it'll turn up on my sewing table, is I did a huge swath of the bright and dark pinks kind of through the middle on the diagonal, and then it just kind of drifts out to the lighter. This is for a friend and former coworker who also loves pink, so I'm really looking forward to see how it comes together. When I get to the design layout stage, a lot of times I just am like, I hate this. I hate this. I don't know why I made this. But in this case, I think it's really going to come together. So that's going to be actually after we get done recording, it's going to be a sewing day for me. I'm going into it going, it's going to take longer than I think, which I learned on my Quilt in a Weekend. So anyway, just thought I would show you guys some of the happiness that is going to be in this disappearing 4-patch pink quilt that I'm like cruising on 5 solid months now. So ready to be done with it. And of course, once you have the layout worked out for your quilt top, you have to start thinking about, well, if you're me, you have to start thinking about backing and binding. A lot of people do all this on the front end, so they're not struggling at this point. But no, I never make it easy for myself. I have a couple of sheets that I found dirt cheap. What an awful phrase. Dirt cheap. Yeah. Inexpensively at the thrift store. I think they were $1.99 a piece. Flat sheets, and you can see they're both pink. We really have the pink going. This one feels vintage to me and is, I think what I imagine that the quilt front would be, and I really, really like it. My friend and former coworker actually loves patchwork quilting, and she loves that vintagey feel. And the quilt top is not going to look like that. So I'm wondering if maybe I need to do like a nod to what she actually likes on the back. Or I can go with this kind of fun, just funky little flower print. Both, I think, are a little dialed back from what the quilt top will be, which I think will be good. I don't know. I'm right on the fence. And of course, if you start talking about the backing, then you have to think about the binding. Originally, I had this in mind because it's just, pretty and pink. Pretty and pink for you 80s people. And I really like that, but there's so much pink. I thought, well, maybe I should do, I was like, what about yellow? And then it would be that like strawberry lemonade kind of feel. Looks great with this. Not sure about this. And I'm afraid on the front, it'll be like, boy, that's a beautiful pink quilt with yellow binding. And then my other thought would be just to go for a very pleasant and somewhat neutral gray. And it just will give it that frame, and it's not anything, stellar, visually stunning, but would cap it all off. Looks great here. I think it would look great with this. But I got to tell you, I'm interested. I don't know. I'll put the whole quilt top together, and then we'll see if the yellow makes it look lovely or like, ooh, no, girl, what were you thinking? So anyway, that's that. Got some stuff to figure out. If you have thoughts about it, I welcome your comments. Sometimes you guys convince me. So anyway, and on to the next. Next up, MCM pillow. And if you're wondering what MCM is, other than my monogram, it is mid-century modern. And this pillow cover has arisen out of a desire. I want a facelift for our living room. I love our living room. We have a very mid-century modern, kind of Danish modern style in our home decor. And I've been using the same throw pillows, and I'm cheap and there's cheap again. I am thrifty and don't want to go buy new throw pillows for the couch. And so I thought, I'll make quilted throw pillows in the mid-century modern style. So turns out there are actually some good mid-century modern quilts out there if you Google it, which maybe we'll do a video on that soon. But what I ended up with is just taking my curved template that I have for my orange peel quilt and just made a linen pillow top. I tried lots of variations. So I started off with all the little, square pieces, and I put them together as a circle, and then I put them together as like the colored diamonds together. Ended up doing a poll because I literally could not decide. So I put a poll on Patreon, like, help me decide on this layout. This was the conclusion. I'm pretty pleased with it. And I think it just has that modern feel. I have no idea how I'm going to quilt it. I kind of feel like I need to do some sort of echoing these curved lines. But then there's a part of me that wants to try out the matchstick quilting that I've seen in so many quilts at QuiltCon. But then that's a lot of quilting, and I don't like the quilting. I'm this far, and now I've got to decide the back for the pillow. I'm going to do an envelope backing, and I want to show you what I'm considering. So I have this fabric, and it is super funky. Do you love how I say fabric? It's a shirt. I bought this. This was a shirt from the thrift store. And I think it could be so cool, but it is very bright and funky. But it kind of matches, like kinda. It's not matchy. It's close. And I think it could be really fun to do that with an envelope backing. And then that way it's almost like the back is as interesting as the front. And I got this far and went, oh gosh, but how would I bind it? Which I don't guess I would have to bind it. I could do the inside out situation and not like the movie where we explore our feelings, but just like literally, sew it and turn it inside out. And so I pulled some fabrics that I want to show you that I'm considering also funky. Let me just go on in short version, very funky. So check that out. It's 100% perfect for this side of the pillow. I think it could be really cool for the front because right now these are very heathered linens and they're not going to be changing. But I think it could really like cap it off. So if you can kind of visually imagine with me, use our imagination and imagine that all the way around all four sides. I feel like it would give it something kind of stunning because right now, while it's lovely, and of course it's, white fabric on a white table. And so it's just kind of like blending in. I think that could be really neat. It's one of those like could be so ugly that it's pretty, or it just could be ugly. I'm not really sure. So funky that it's cool or so funky that it's just funky. I don't know. Other options, I could do this, which is far springier, which was, of course, when I started this mid-century modern pillow. It was, I don't know, a month ago. And I was like, oh, I need something light and springy. And now we're in June and it's going to be middle of July before this is done. But this has just a lighter and springier feel. And I think would also kind of do what I'm trying to do, which is give it, it's anchoring. That's the word I'm looking for, to like ground it so that it makes sense and kind of goes with the back. It's pretty close. It's not quite as bright, which maybe that's a good thing. This is such a huge shirt, by the way. Huge shirt. Look at this. Oh my goodness. Let me just show you the whole thing. That is the shirt back. It is so big that I will be able to do the whole entire envelope backing with just this shirt back if I want to. So if I decided to do the backing with essentially where it's the turn inside out with no binding on it, I think that could be really lovely, but definitely springy. So if we're going into summer and fall, our couch will get a facelift, but it will look like it's behind by a few months. And then there's just the safe way to go, which would be just like a neutral, this is such a light tan that it's almost beige. It would be timeless. It would kind of work for a long time, but it's just not very inspiring. Again, would welcome your thoughts. Apparently this is the tell me what you think episode of the On My Sewing Table. So if you have thoughts about this, and of course, everyone preference is irrational, so everyone will have different thoughts, but turquoise, neutral, or super funky, which I will not get back out. So that's that. And look for this coming up because I think I'm going to do some other sort of modern, mid-century modern quilt patterns for those of you that don't like the traditional route. As an outworking of all of the linen quilts that I've been making, I have all this scrap that's coming. And so what I have started doing, which you see before me, is cutting my scrap pieces into 2-inch squares. And for the first time ever in my very short quilting career, less than 3-year quilting career, I'm using leaders and enders. And so what I do is after I get done with cutting, I take a little bit of time and cut some 2-inch squares. And I need to cut some more white ones actually, because when I get ready to do this again, I don't have any pairs. I'm making pairs of colored linen with white linen. And then my hope, I have never done this before, my hope is just that as I get these a little at a time, eventually I will have enough to have an entire linen checkerboard quilt. May take me 10 years, but I'm just kind of like chipping away at it, just making a dent, which I used to say in the part-time quilter videos. You don't have to do it all, just make a dent. So I'm trying to make a dent using leaders and enders. And now for something completely different. QuiltCon has a fabric challenge, and it's from Wyndham this year. I think it was last year as well. Ruby and Bee solids, which are a whole palette of solids created by Annabelle Wrigley and Heather Ross. And the keynote speaker and featured quilter of that year's QuiltCon chooses 6 fabrics from that Wyndham Ruby and Bee solid collection as a challenge. I'm going to say challenge a whole lot. And so the nature of the challenge is there are 6 fabrics, and you have to use, if you take up the challenge, you have to use 3 of them in the quilt top, and you cannot use any other fabrics. No neutrals, no white, no beige, no anything helpful. And if you put binding on the quilt, the binding actually has to be one of these fabrics. If you do facing, you can do whatever you want. But basically, if it shows on the front, it has to be one of these fabrics. And it has to be a minimum of 3. There's no minimum size. And then the maximum size is like 94 inches on the longest side, which do not worry, QuiltCon. But anyway, so I had some ideas. I initially was like, whew, no, not for me. The fabric challenge, not for me. And then I had an idea for something kind of rolling around. And I thought, well, I won't know unless I actually see the fabrics up close. So I should just order them and find out for myself. And so I ordered them and found out for myself. And I don't know what field it's in. I think it's military. They go, it's a no-go. Is it a go? It's a no-go. So I got the fabrics, and individually, I think they are lovely. As a grouping, so the colors are unicorn. Did not know unicorn was a color. Poppy, stormy, slate, rain cloud, my favorite, and turmeric, which I grew up saying turmeric, and it's turmeric. I think both are actually acceptable. It's kind of like potato, tomato. Before I go on, I want to know, is there someone who gets paid to name colors? Like, seriously, for paint colors at Lowe's or fabrics? I want that job. So fun, but also unicorn. I would not have known what color that was. Poppy, thankfully, is very helpful, and the rest are pretty close. Actually, I wondered if this is the color of turmeric, and it just so happens that I have some turmeric in liquid form, and I thought it would be fun and funny if we just checked to see how close. So let's do it. If you're wondering why I have turmeric liquid, for a little while, I thought that I was going to be super healthy and put it in my green smoothies, which I haven't had a green smoothie in so long. And yeah, it's not great. It tastes pretty terrible. So here we go. Let's try it again. If you see this dropper, you're going to be like, yeah, that's old. You need to throw that out. Okay, well, they call it turmeric. Let's move on. In the 2 other QuiltCons that I have experienced, the fabric challenge, there's like a fairly harmonious 5. And then there's kind of an odd man out, like, ooh, how are you going to put that in there? And the people who manage to get that outlier in there really effectively, it's like, ooh. So last year it was all these turquoises and mulberry and plum. And then that outlier, the odd man out, for me at least, was this apple green. And in fact, the one that celebrated the most, there's a balloon animal quilt. And it was just like this apple green balloon dog in the middle of the sea of these other colors. And so that's what I was kind of expecting. I saw the fabrics before that I ordered them, obviously. And I thought, well, maybe the poppy is less tomatoey and more in the blue family. And maybe the turmeric is looking a little green, but it's just the computer. And maybe that unicorn is not as purple. Maybe it's more pink. Yeah, they were fairly accurate. In fact, let me show you with my color wheel. So my color wheel says that this poppy, which it is actually the color of a poppy, is really orange-red. And the turmeric, I can't even find on my color wheel. It literally is halfway between what they're calling golden yellow and in the yellow family, leaning towards chartreuse. It reminds me of a man's nerdy shirt from the 50s. You know, like when they do the stereotypical nerdy man that's like a engineer somewhere and he's got this is the color shirt. Seems like always. But anyway, so yeah. And then I thought this was pink when I looked at it online, but really, I mean, so here's purple. It's really purple. It's really not pink. It's really purple. And my color wheel is not, exact. Obviously, it's not perfect, but here's the purple that I think it matches. So, so my idea may not come to fruition. These may be finding a home in my stash far apart from each other because in my opinion, there's not an odd man out. There's two. In fact, my daughter said, there's not an odd man out. There's two odd men out. Actually, it's an even out, which I thought was great. I mean, like this four, great. This four, great. Like we put every combination together possible. And every time we did the colors that we liked together, it was four of them, not six. We shall see. We'll just see. I don't know. I don't want to spend a lot of time and energy on what might be an ugly quilt. Unless I can make it so ugly that it's awesome. But that's typically not the way I roll. So the good news is, since there's no minimum size, maybe I'll make something small and try it out and see. If it's a colossal fail, I'll do a video about it and we can all have a big laugh about the odd men out on this challenge. And I guess I should remind myself, challenge is in the name of the thing. And if it was easy, everyone would do it. It wouldn't be a challenge. We'll see. I don't know. But I just thought I would show you, bring you along. We could have a laugh about whatever this is. Thank you, Tara Vaughn from the QuiltCon Wyndham Fabric Challenge 2025. This is what I may not be working on, but that's what I'm working on. Thanks for coming along with me today. I hope that my struggles with my projects are an encouragement to you that you're not alone. If you're struggling to find your backing, if you're struggling to figure out what binding to put on your fabrics, and if you've got some fabrics that are like, oh, what am I going to do with this? I'm Kathy Martin. This is the Catbird Quilts. Thank you so much for watching.